Jake Gardiner, Anton Stralman, Tyler Meyers. These are the names that the Vancouver Canucks fan base and media outlets are speculating the Vancouver Canucks could probably go after. All of these guys are free agents to be, most likely. I don't think they're going to re-sign. And along with Alex Edler, these guys pretty much make up the potential UFA class of 2019 on the blue line. Now, Edler, I think he's probably going to resign. I don't see Alex Edler leaving, especially after he expressed his interest and desire to stay with Vancouver after the trade deadline. But there are rumors on whether or not the Canucks would go after specifically Tyler Meyers. He's the guy who's been thrown around there a lot because on the radio, on articles, Ian McIntyre talked about it. The Vancouver Canucks might see interest in a guy like Tyler Meyers. People, at least among the people that I've seen in the Vancouver fan base and media, don't really talk about Jake Gardiner the same way, or Anton Stralman in the same way, or even Erik Karlsson. But Tyler Meyers seems to be the guy that a lot of Vancouver fans are pinpointing as a Canucks potential target. So let's go over him for a little bit and expand over into the rest of the free agency defensive class for this year. And for Tyler Meyers, starting things off, a lot of Canucks fans I've seen don't really want it. And it is not because Tyler Meyers is essentially a bad player. I mean, I've seen the argument that Winnipeg fans don't necessarily want Tyler Meyers, which is why you can't really do a direct translation. Oh, if he's a top 6 in Winnipeg, that means he's a top 4 in Vancouver. It's not really like that. It's not linear like that, because even though Winnipeg is a better team, the fact that Winnipeg Jets fans don't necessarily like him is not a good enough justification to say, yeah, well, he'd be amazing here. And the biggest thing with Tyler Meyers is a potential contract. Meyers is 29 years old, he's a right-handed defenseman, and he's a pretty big guy. 6'8", right-handed defenseman is Tyler Meyers, and a lot of people know the impact that he has on a team. He did get 30 points this year, he got 30 points last year, but a lot of Canucks fans are saying no, because if we go for Tyler Meyers, just based off of everything Benning has said about defense, about right-handed defense, about getting guys who are a little bit older, and getting veteran players, you know, just based off of all of this, that Jim Benning, if he were to sign Tyler Meyers, he'd give him a 7-year deal, which is what a lot of people don't necessarily want to happen. Tyler Meyers is 29. He's going to demand a lot of money. He's going to demand a lot of term. This is going to be his retirement money right here. This is the contract that pays off the rest of his life, which is why a lot of Vancouver Canucks fans are saying, please, Benning, don't be the guy who gives it out, because Meyers, going into his later years, is not guaranteed to being the same pretty okay defenseman that he has been throughout his career. And that's just the facts here. Tyler Meyers is not going to be a guy who puts up 30 points for the rest of his contract if he's signed to a 6 or 7 year deal. Ian McIntyre posted his article, Tyler Meyers would look great on Canucks defense, but at what cost? That was the subtweet for the article, and everybody in the replies was like, no, 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 stop, no, no, no. That's the entire narrative here for Vancouver Canucks fans and Tyler Meyers. It's not necessarily that he's terrible, it's that the Vancouver Canucks would put too many eggs into the basket of this player, wherein you could probably argue that he does not deserve that much. You know he's going to get overpaid. That's just how D-men are when it comes to free agents. And Tyler Meyers is going to get paid, which is why Vancouver Canucks fans are saying, okay, please, let somebody else step up or get somebody else, not Meyers. And if we get Meyers, then okay, cool, but please make it a short-term deal, which we've already established is not really going to be possible because Tyler Meyers is not really going to settle for something like that. Going over into the other free agents, though, Jake Gardiner is a guy that a lot of Vancouver Canucks fans don't really want to see on the Canucks either because of the same reasons that I kind of put out for Meyers, also compiled with the fact that the Canucks fan base doesn't really like the Leafs in general, and they've seen Jake Gardiner. The biggest thing that I've seen about Canucks fans is that they're like, yeah, Gardiner sucks in the playoffs, Gardiner is this, Gardiner is that. Okay, calm your horses, guys. Gardner has been a pretty solid offensive defenseman for the Toronto Maple Leafs over the past few years, but I do agree that the Vancouver Canucks would probably overpay, and he wouldn't really fit into the core makeup of the team going forward as Pettersson, Hughes, Horvat, Besser develop into their primes. Gardner is a guy who's 28 years old, is not somebody that I would say, yeah, I want that for my team long term. And you know that Gardner has kind of the same thing going on. Gardner's going to get paid wherever he goes, and the Vancouver Canucks are not necessarily the team that I can say, yes, this is a team that would benefit from paying him that money. Also, he's left-handed and everything. The Vancouver Canucks put more priority into right guys at this point. But going into the other free agents of the class, obviously, Erik Karlsson, you pay that guy money. If the Vancouver Canucks are going for Karlsson, they're going for Karlsson, and I'd like that, honestly, because Karlsson is Karlsson. Doesn't really matter. He's 29. He deserves the money that he gets because Karlsson is Karlsson. There's not really an argument to dispute that. But going into the other free agents, I think the guy that I actually would really like to see personally is Anton Strowman. He's 32 years old, and if the Vancouver Canucks are able to get a guy like Stralman for a smaller amount of term than they would for a guy like Meyers, I'd be really good with that. Because Stralman is 32 years old. To put things in perspective, Edler is 33. Stralman is also a right-handed defenseman, and he's been touted as one of those guys who will never win a Norris, but his partner certainly will, because he makes other guys look good. Strowman is honestly a guy that I feel the most comfortable with getting out of this whole free agent class, other than Erik Karlsson, Artemi Panarin, etc., but that kind of has to be thrown out the window if you want to talk about reasonable things that happen, right? So Strowman is probably the safest bet here if they're able to get him to a short-term deal, maybe like 2 or 3 years. This is kind of the perspective that I've been seeing on hockey Twitter a lot, Canucks Twitter, guys saying that Strowman is probably the most easy to cope with signing out of all of the potential signings that we could have, because Strowman is not a guy who's supposed to get a ton of points. What you get with Strowman is security and safe play, which is what a lot of Vancouver Canucks fans would argue the team needs. We don't need guys who will probably phase out into being players later down the line. So that's basically my whole thought process on the free agency defensive class of 2019. Edler, he's probably coming back. Karlsson, if he wants to come here, then cool. Honestly, give him anything he wants. He's Erik Karlsson. For Tyler Myers, I personally wouldn't want to go for it just because of the subtext that Jim Benning would probably impose in that situation. I don't want that. Same thing for Gardner. I like Gardner as a player. I think he's great, but I don't think he would fit with the Canucks. And for Anton Stralman, I think he's probably the best fit here. And I would like to see him in a Canucks jersey, just personally speaking. I don't know if it's going to happen, but you know, weirder things have happened in the past, so we'll see once the free agency period comes around. But that's basically my wrap-up for the Vancouver Canucks and their perspectives. Hope you guys enjoyed this video of gaming, and bye.